guys, welcome back to Dan Cabinet Photography. So this past, recently, not this past week, but recently, a couple weeks ago, got to get out and shoot some bands. I've shot lots of bands before. I was in the band, and so I was naturally gravitated towards shooting bands as a photographer. We took tons of pictures of my band back in the day, and it was just a little Fuji point and shoot digital camera. My first digital, quite honestly, it was the one, my predecessor to getting a DSLR. And in fact, our roadie and basically sixth member of the band who was there, our lighting guy, our sound guy, our roadie, or you name it. I ended up giving him the camera. He still has to this day. Anyway. So I started shooting bands, and it's interesting because the best thing you can do, in my opinion, for your photography is go manual. It is so freeing compared to on one of the automatic modes. And for me, when I first kind of started really getting serious about photography, really trying to learn about it, I was incredibly frustrated trying to shoot bands, which is one of my main things I wanted to shoot. That's because in aperture priority, you invariably end up with blurry pictures. If you put it on shutter priority, you pretty much always end up with, the wrong exposure. It's dark. It's kind of those frustrating things. And until I actually went manual, I really couldn't get any good results for the bands. Now, up until recently, I hadn't shot bands in a while, but recently it was. The last time I shot them, I used the D850. It's what I had. The highest I could really go with the ISO is 6400. Now, if you're shooting bands, automatically assume the light's going to be either shitty and get all the way as good as crappy. The lighting's almost always bad, unless it's really a big band who has extra lighting people who take care of that for them. You're chances are you're going to have terrible lighting. It's just how it goes. And so with that, you need the right tool for the job, and that, of course, is going to be a camera that can handle low light pretty well. Because the other thing you're doing is you need a higher shutter speed because you want to capture the action, stop the action. So when you have low light and high shutter speed, the only thing you can do is bump the ISO. Now, the ISO has been one of those things I've always been kind of afraid to go too high. But this time, what I decided to do, I took out the D850. Bulk. Anyway, I took the D850 out. I took my 24 to 70 2.8, and I took my 70 to 200 2.8. I left them both wide open the whole night at 2.8. I left it at 1/1600th. To stop all the action, and I ran the ISO all the way up to 25,600, and I shot both bands at that. I've never shot that high before, but I figured it's the D850. It's got 45 megapixels, and I also have Topaz AI, and we can talk about that too. So I figured worst case scenario, if I could run them through Topaz AI if they're particularly bad. That has its own problems. Anyway, so I shot, and there were two bands. The first band is called Hellbender. They're a metal band. I shot at the Mystic Theater. The Mystic Theater, it's a good-sized theater. It's holds 600 to 800 people, and they usually have headlining acts in there that come touring through. It's pretty major. I've seen Night Ranger there. I've seen every year. Y&T sells out a whole weekend there. That's the rock stuff. I mean, they have all kinds of bands that come through of different genres that I'm not even into. Los Lonely Boys was there. Back in the day, when Quiet Riot first got back together before they all died, or what, before Kevin Dubrow went and all that. It was their first time they got back together with Kevin Dubrow. It was one of the best shows I've ever seen. A sold-out show, Quiet Riot, like sometime in the 90s. Anyway, so Mystic Theater gets lots of great acts in there. Well, this particular weekend, actually let some local guys go. Now, being in bands, I knew a few of the guys in each of the bands, and we've been friends forever. And so they had a photographer actually out there, and I said, hey, I can come out and shoot for you. I haven't shot in a while. They're like, sure. So they put me on the list and got me in there. And so I really had nothing to lose. I was going to practice, Haven't shot bands in a while. Pop up some new stuff from my website. And so I decided to go all out. I mean, you're not going to blow these pictures up 4x8, so you really have to worry so much about the ISO. And they're going to look fine basically on my thinking was on social media. So that's what I did. Took out the D850, shot at 2.8 all night, 1/1600th of a second, and 25,600 ISO. And here's some of the results. So these images came out pretty much just fine. I mean, these are just some editing in Lightroom. No Topaz AI, just a little bit of tweaking of the noise, a little bit of noise reduction, not too heavy. And they're certainly acceptable, obviously noisy. Now these were not the final edited best images. These are just some of the extras. As you can see, the lighting was pretty bad. The only one that had any real light was actually the drummer. The guitar player and the bass player kind of in the corners, hardly any light on them whatsoever. This is the second band, Union Jack. A little bit better lighting. They actually had a little bit of front light, which the other guys had none. Anyway, so as you can see, their quality is really good enough. It's about as good as can be expected from a this type of rock show, and the lighting that was there. Again, pretty much just fine, really. Ultimately, the pictures came out very usable. The first band, like I said, was Hellbender, and the second band was Union Jack and the Rippers. Now, Hellbender is an original metal band. They've been around about 10 years. Union Jack and the Rippers are a cover band, but they're not your standard bar cover band. They're not doing Stones. They're not doing, Tom Petty, and they're not doing another version of Mustang Sally. ZZ Top and all that. No, these guys are doing the British heavy metal stuff. They're doing Iron Maiden. They're doing Judas Priest. They're doing Saxon, Angel Witch, stuff that I've never even heard before, honestly. Do some Def Leppard, different things. They kill it. They are world-class musicians, all of them. They've all been in other bigger bands. Dual guitars, just really, really good. I mean, as musicianship goes. Anyway, I took over 1,600 pictures between the two bands. I don't know why I do this stuff. It's such a pain in the ass. Anyway, ultimately I whittled it down. I sent about 40 to Hellbender, and I sent a little less than 70, I think, to Union Jack. But honestly, it's some of the best pictures I've taken of bands. Now, as far as the ISO goes, yeah, they were all pretty grainy, and I was able to fix some of that in Lightroom, and they ended up just fine, totally basically usable. But what I do have, like I said, is Topaz AI. I generally like to be a purist, but I'm starting to let this technology thing kind of get to me, see what Topaz AI does. Now, what's weird about this particular program, set my camera down here, it's really hit and miss. You can take two similar images. One will come out amazing, the other one not so much. I have no idea why. I'm not no techie guy. I don't know how they put this stuff together, but it makes no sense to me that two similar images wouldn't come out similar at the end. The other problem, another one of the problems with Topaz AI, is it takes your 30 or 40 megabyte file and turns it into a 200 megabyte file. So you don't want to batch edit 200 pictures because you're going to fill up your computer really quickly. Well, actually, it's slow. It takes forever, actually, for it to do its thing. So that's another problem with Topaz AI. It really jacks up the size of the file. And so if you're conserving space, you don't want that kind of space occupied on your thing. You be selective about the images you use. But there's also another glitch. Here, take a look at these few images here. Yeah, so take a look here. All these images have areas missing where there's no pigment or dots or pixels or whatever. They look like miniature TV screens on Poltergeist or something. This picture has 4 or 5. That was pretty bad. This one has a small one on the left, but it also douched up the drummer's face. This one is another one, again, over in the corner. This last image right here, it just jacked up the whole thing. Lots of those weird TVs and just messed up the face of the guitar player. Several of these images came out sort of incomplete with white kind of weird color blotchy areas on them, and I don't know why. So I don't know if that's a glitch in the program. I don't know if it's my computer that's doing it, but it's frustrating because that's what it's not supposed to do. I was able to use some of these and just use a fix-it tool in Lightroom and block some of that stuff out, but several of the pictures are really not usable that came out of the Topaz. And then the other thing with Topaz, if you're not careful, it can make people look really weird. It can make people look like plastic, like they're turned into Barbie and Ken or whatever. So I think it's a cool tool when it works right, but don't lean on it and be careful with it and don't go too overboard. Those are my opinions on Topaz AI. At any rate, here's some pictures without Topaz, and I'm going to show you following pictures, the same pictures with Topaz. All right, so here's a drummer. No editing at all, no Topaz. This is with Topaz. Cleaned it up pretty good. Still some small white dots. This one is without Topaz. This one's with it. Cleaned it up pretty good. This one came out pretty decent. Again, no Topaz, and then with Topaz. Now, Topaz, I had already pre-cropped the image, and it takes the original, and you have to recrop again. Same thing here with the bass player. I had to recrop that after it was done. Same thing with this guitar player. So I've cropped it already, and then this one I had to recrop. It's kind of weird. Now on here, I've gone ahead and just did a quick video of my screen. So this is without Topaz, and then the image with Topaz. Now I zoom in here. See, with Topaz, look at his eyes and all that. It looks very mannequin-like, sort of plasticky. Kind of weird. And then here is without the Topaz effect. And quite honestly, it's fine without Topaz, really, because I'm really zoomed in here. It's focused enough, and they're really not particularly grainy. But again, here it is with Topaz, and he looks a little more plastic. So that's what you kind of have to watch out for. I go down here and you take a look at also what it does to the vest. This vest kind of looks normal to me, like I would expect to see. But here with the Topaz, it adds a lot more texture and a lot more like lighted areas. It's kind of weird. What I also notice about Topaz is that it'll smooth out the texture of clothing. So what lines and different texture in the clothing that's supposed to be there, it'll take them out. It's kind of funny. I do believe the majority of the ones I sent, I did Topaz. There were a few I didn't like, and so I just did them in Lightroom. Anyway, it was a lot of fun. So again, if you get out there, I didn't video the actual show. Thought about it, but then I had just too many working parts, too much noise. I don't know the actual noise capacity of my GoPro here. It's probably okay. I mean, it probably can't be any worse than the cell phone. Cell phones seem to do fine at concerts. Anyway, so yeah, take a look at these images. I have faith in the D850 to go pretty high on the ISO, and so yeah, I could totally recommend that. Ultimately though, I probably could have stopped it down to maybe 1/1000th of a second and brought the ISO much lower, maybe 2 stops down. What is that, 6400 or something? Might have been better off there. I might do that next time, assuming I'm able to actually stop the action. Anyway, that's my 2 cents on the shooting bands. It was fun. I'll do it again. I have Y&T. They're coming in. I'll be able to shoot that, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, as always, keep shooting. Please like, subscribe, share, and I will see you on the next one.